The fires had been burning for 3 days now. Ambassador Tholix stood at the broken window of his office and watched the smoke rise into the purple sky of Kepler 442b. His thin, feathered body shook with fear as another explosion rocked the ground beneath his feet. The Kreth had come without warning, and they had brought death with them. Tholix was a Volrani, a bird-like species known for their peaceful nature and their skill in mining rare minerals. His people had built this colony over 50 years. They had carved homes into the mountains. They had raised families. They had created a life far from their homeworld. And now, in just 3 days, the Kreth were destroying everything. He turned away from the window and looked at the communication console on his desk. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. He could send one message, one call for help. But to whom? The Galactic Concord had rules about interference. They would debate and discuss and form committees while his people died. The other species nearby were too weak or too afraid of the Kreth to help. There was only one option left, the option that everyone in the galaxy feared to use. Tholix sat down at the console with trembling hands. His assistant, a young Volrane named Pix, rushed into the room. Her feathers were dirty with ash, and her eyes were wide with terror. "Ambassador, the Kreth are breaking through the Eastern Barrier," she said. "Commander Vexenar has demanded our surrender. He says if we do not open the gates by sunset, he will kill every 10th colonist until we obey." Tholix closed his eyes. He had heard stories about the Kreth. They were massive creatures with 6 limbs and armored skin. They conquered worlds for sport and enslaved entire species to work in their mines and factories. They had no mercy. They knew no kindness. And now they wanted his people. "How many ships do they have?" he asked. 9 heavy cruisers in orbit. Thousands of soldiers on the ground. 9 cruisers. The Volrani had no warships. They had never needed them. They were miners and builders, not fighters. Tholix opened his eyes and looked at the console again. "I am going to send a message," he said quietly. Pix moved closer. "To the Concord? They will not come in time. No, not to the Concord." Pix froze. Her feathers stood up in alarm. "Ambassador, you cannot mean. I am sending a message to Earth." The word hung in the air like a curse. Earth, the death world. The planet that the Galactic Concord had classified as one of the most dangerous places in the known universe. A world of extreme heat and freezing cold. A world of earthquakes and hurricanes and floods. A world filled with predators and poisons and diseases that could kill in hours. And somehow, against all logic, that world had produced intelligent life. Life that had not only survived, but had learned to dominate their hellish planet. The humans. "The Concord forbids contact with Earth," Pix whispered. "They say humans are too dangerous, too violent. They say that asking humans for help is like inviting a monster into your home to kill a smaller monster." Tholix turned to face her. "And what do you call the Kreth, Pix? Are they not monsters? They will enslave our children. They will work our people to death in their mines. They will destroy everything we have built." He pointed at the window, where another building was now burning. "I would rather invite a monster who might save us than wait for a monster who will certainly destroy us." Pix said nothing. She simply lowered her head and stepped back. Tholix turned to the console and began typing. The message was simple. He gave the coordinates of their colony. He described the Kreth attack. He explained that thousands of innocent lives were at risk. And then he added 3 words that he knew humans would understand. "Please help us." He pressed the send button and watched the signal disappear into space. It would travel faster than light, bouncing through relay stations across the galaxy until it reached the Sol system. Until it reached Earth. Now all he could do was wait. 12,000 light-years away. The message arrived at Terran Fleet Command in Houston. The building was massive, a fortress of steel and glass that housed the military leadership of humanity's space forces. Inside, hundreds of officers monitored communications from across the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Danny Vance was reviewing reports when his screen flashed with an incoming priority signal. He was a tall man with short brown hair and calm gray eyes. He had served in the fleet for 15 years and had seen many things. But an SOS from this far out was unusual. He opened the message and read it twice. Then he called his tactical officer. Katie Morgan appeared at his side within minutes. She was younger than Danny, with red hair tied back and a practical ponytail and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. She read the message over his shoulder and let out a low whistle. "Velroni colony under attack by the Kreth," she said. "That's a bad situation." "The Volani have never asked us for anything," Danny said. "They follow the Concord's rules. They stay away from humans like everyone else. They must be desperate." Danny nodded. He pulled up everything they had on the Kreth. The information was not pleasant. The Kreth Dominion had conquered 12 species in the last century. They were brutal and efficient. They took what they wanted and crushed anyone who resisted. But they had never encountered humans. "How fast can we get a fleet there?" Danny asked. Katie checked the navigation data. "The Relentless and her support group are at Station Gamma. They could reach Kepler-442b in 18 hours through slipspace." Danny thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. The Volani were not allies. They were not friends. They were just people who were dying and had nowhere else to turn. For humans, that was enough. "Get me Captain Ben Ortiz," Danny said. "Tell him to prepare his fleet for immediate departure." Katie raised an eyebrow. "Command might want to discuss this first." Danny looked at her with hard eyes. "People are dying right now. While we discuss, more will die. The Volani sent us an SOS. That means they trust us to help them. I will not let that trust be wasted in committee meetings." He stood up and walked toward the main command center. Behind him, Katie smiled slightly. This was why she served under Danny Vance. He understood something that many people forgot. When someone asks for help, you help them. Everything else is just details. The orders went out within the hour. Across the solar system, ships began to move. Soldiers prepared their weapons. Pilots checked their fighters. And deep in space, the Terran carrier Relentless turned toward the stars and began its journey. The Deathworlders were coming, and they would show no mercy to those who preyed on the innocent. Captain Ben Ortiz stood on the bridge of the Terran carrier, Relentless, and watched the stars blur as the ship entered slipspace. He was a stocky man with dark skin and a shaved head. His face carried the scars of 20 years in the fleet, including a long white line across his left cheek from a battle he rarely talked about. His crew respected him because he was fair. His enemies feared him because he was ruthless. The Relentless was one of the largest ships in the Terran fleet. It carried 2,000 crew members, 300 fighters, and enough weapons to level a small moon. But Ben knew that size alone did not win battles. What won battles was the will to fight and the skill to kill. Behind the Relentless flew 2 destroyers, the Fury and the Iron Will. 4 fast frigates followed them in a protective formation. Together, they formed a strike group capable of dealing with most threats in the galaxy. Ben hoped it would be enough. He turned to his senior officers, who had gathered in the briefing room adjacent to the bridge. Chief Engineer Ryan Cole was a thin man with messy blonde hair and oil stains on his uniform. He could fix anything and make it work better than before. Navigation Officer Megan Torres was a quiet woman with dark eyes and a perfect record of getting ships where they needed to go. Weapons Specialist Chris Dyer was built like a fighter, with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they could crush stone. And then there was Marine Commander Nicole Grant thought Nicole was the most dangerous person on the ship, and everyone knew it. She was tall and athletic, with short black hair and pale blue eyes that seemed to look right through people. She commanded 1,200 Marines, the ground forces that would do the close work if the situation required it. Her soldiers loved her because she fought beside them. Her enemies never lived long enough to form an opinion. Ben activated the holographic display, and an image of the Kepler system appeared in the air above the table. "Here's what we know," he said. "The Volrani mining colony on Kepler 442b is under attack by the Kreth Dominion. 9 heavy cruisers in orbit. Unknown number of ground forces. The colonists have been under siege for 3 days. Casualties are unknown, but likely significant. What do we know about the Kreth?" Nicole asked. Chris pulled up the intelligence files. "Big, ugly, mean. 6 limbs, 2 for walking and 4 for fighting. Armored skin that can stop light weapons. They have conquered 12 species in the last 100 years. They use slave labor for mining and manufacturing. No record of peaceful contact with anyone. And they have never fought humans," Megan added. "No," Ben agreed. "They have not. The Galactic Concord keeps species separated. Most aliens only know about Earth from classified reports. They know we come from a death world. They know we are dangerous. But they have never seen what we can actually do." Ryan leaned forward. "Do we know why the Kreth attacked?" "The Volrani are miners, not fighters. Kepler 442b has large deposits of crystalline helium," Ben said. "It is one of the rarest fuel sources in the galaxy. The Kreth probably want it for their war machine." Nicole smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "So they thought they could just take it. Enslave the colonists. Add another species to their collection. That appears to be the plan." "I have a different plan," Nicole said. "We killed them all." The room was silent for a moment. Then Ben nodded. "That is the general idea. But we need to be smart. The Kreth have numbers on their side. Their cruisers are heavily armed. We cannot afford to lose ships." Chris brought up the tactical data. "Their weapons are plasma-based. Powerful but slow. Our kinetic systems are faster and hit harder. If we can close the distance quickly, we can tear them apart before they adjust." "What about shields?" Megan asked. "Standard energy barriers. Nothing special. Our armor-piercing rounds should cut through them like paper." Ben studied the display. The Kreth fleet was positioned in a standard defensive formation around the planet. They were confident. They believed they were the hunters. They had no idea that the real hunters were coming. "We exit slipspace at the edge of the system," he decided. "Fighters launch immediately and form a screen. The destroyers will engage their flanks while the Relentless hits them head-on. Nicole, your Marines will be ready for boarding actions if needed." "My people are always ready," Nicole said. The meeting ended, and the officers returned to their duties. Ben remained on the bridge, watching the swirling colors of slipspace through the main viewport. His mind drifted to the reports he had read about Earth. Not the Earth that humans knew, but the Earth that aliens saw dot to the rest of the galaxy. Earth was a nightmare. The planet had extreme temperatures that varied by over 100 degrees between seasons. It had massive storms that could destroy cities. It had earthquakes that opened the ground and swallowed entire towns. It had oceans filled with predators and land covered with poisonous plants and deadly animals. And the diseases. Earth had millions of different diseases. Viruses that mutated faster than medicine could cure them. Bacteria that adapted to every antibiotic. Parasites that could live inside a body for years before killing their host. Any other species would have died on Earth. Any other species would have been wiped out in the first generation. But humans had survived. More than that, they had conquered their planet. They had tamed the storms and crossed the oceans and climbed the highest mountains. They had built cities in deserts and farms in frozen wastelands. Evolution had made humans into something special. They healed from injuries that would kill other species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could survive on almost any food. They had a chemical in their blood called adrenaline that made them faster and stronger when they were in danger, and they were pack hunters. They worked together with a coordination that other species found terrifying. A single human was dangerous. A group of humans was unstoppable. The Galactic Concord knew all of this. That was why they had tried to keep humanity isolated. They feared what would happen if humans ever decided to expand across the stars. They called Earth a death world and hoped that humans would stay there forever. But humans did not stay anywhere forever. And when someone asked for help, humans answered. Back on Kepler 442b, the situation was getting worse. Commander Vexenar had grown tired of waiting. He stood in his command tent, surrounded by his officers, and gave new orders. "Begin processing the colonists," he said. "Take the strongest for labor. The rest can be used for food or disposed of." His officers moved to obey. Kreth soldiers marched into the refugee camps where the Volari were hiding. Screams filled the air as families were torn apart. Ambassador Tholix was dragged from his cell and forced to watch. "You see?" Vexenar said, standing beside him. "This is what happens to those who resist the Dominion. Your people will serve us or they will die." Tholix said nothing. He simply looked at the sky and prayed that his message had been received. 18 hours. That was how long the humans had said they would take. He hoped his people could survive that long. He hoped the Deathworlders would come, and somewhere in slipspace, getting closer every second, the Relentless and her fleet flew toward their destination. The hunters were almost there. The Terran fleet dropped out of slipspace at the edge of the Kepler system, like wolves entering a sheep's pen. The transition was smooth and fast. One moment there was empty space. The next moment, 7 warships hung in the darkness, their weapons already charging. Captain Ben Ortiz stood at the center of his bridge, calm and steady as a rock. Around him, his crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. They were ready. "All ships report ready, Captain," Megan Torres said from her navigation station. "Fighters are launching now," Chris Dyer added. "Full squadrons will be deployed in 4 minutes. Ben nodded. "Open a communication channel. Let them know we are here." The signal went out across the system, reaching the Kreth fleet in seconds. On his flagship, Commander Vexenar received the transmission with surprise. His sensors had detected the new arrivals, but he did not recognize the ship designs. They were not from any species he knew. He opened the channel and saw a human face for the first time. Ben Ortiz looked at him with eyes that held no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy. "Unknown vessels," Vexenar said. "This territory is claimed by the Kreth Dominion. You have entered a restricted zone. Withdraw immediately, or you will be destroyed." Ben smiled slightly. It was not a friendly smile. "This is Captain Ben Ortiz of the Terran fleet," he said. "You have attacked a species under our protection. You have killed innocent people. You have committed crimes that cannot be forgiven." He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. "You have one chance to surrender. Release all prisoners, withdraw your forces, and submit to our custody. If you refuse, we will destroy you." Vexenar stared at the screen. Then he began to laugh. It was a harsh, grinding sound that echoed through his bridge. "You threaten me? You come here with 7 ships, and you threaten the Kreth Dominion." He leaned forward, his 4 eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. "I have 9 cruisers. I have thousands of warriors. You are nothing but insects, and I will crush you like insects. He cut the communication and turned to his officers. "Destroy them," he ordered. "Leave nothing but debris." The Kreth fleet moved into attack formation. 9 massive cruisers turned their weapons toward the smaller Terran ships. Plasma cannons began to charge, glowing red with deadly energy. On the Relentless, Chris Dyer watched the enemy approach on his tactical display. He had studied their weapons, their shields, and their tactics. He knew exactly how they would fight. "They are coming straight at us," he reported. "Standard attack pattern. No creativity." "They have never needed creativity," Ben said. "They have always been bigger and stronger than everyone else. They think that is enough. Is it?" Ben shook his head. "No, it is not." The first Kreth cruiser fired. A massive ball of plasma shot across space toward the Relentless. It was a powerful weapon, capable of melting through most shields and armor. Megan Torres adjusted their course by a fraction of a degree. The plasma bolt passed harmlessly by, missing the carrier by less than 100 meters. "Too slow," she said quietly. "All ships, engage," Ben commanded. What happened next would become legendary throughout the galaxy. The Terran fighters struck first. 300 small craft, each piloted by a human who had trained since childhood, swarmed toward the Kreth fleet like angry hornets. Squadron leader Amy Lawson led the attack, her voice calm and steady over the communication channel. "Alpha Squadron, target the engines. Beta Squadron, take out their sensors. Everyone else, keep them busy." The fighters were too fast for the Kreth to track. Their plasma weapons were designed to hit large, slow targets. Against a nimble Terran craft, they might as well have been throwing rocks at lightning. Amy's squadron reached the first cruiser and released their payloads. Small but powerful missiles slammed into the enemy engines, ripping through armor and exploding inside the ship. The cruiser shuddered and began to drift, its propulsion systems destroyed. 3 more cruisers suffered the same fate within minutes. Their weapons still worked, but they could not move. They were sitting targets. Now the destroyers joined the fight. The Fury and the Iron Will raced along the flanks of the Kreth formation, their kinetic cannons firing in rapid bursts. Each round was a chunk of dense metal accelerated to incredible speeds. When they hit the Kreth shields, the shields failed. When they hit the armor cracked. When they hit the crew compartments, there was nothing left but broken bodies and twisted metal. 2 Kreth cruisers exploded in balls of fire. A third tried to retreat, but was caught in a crossfire between the destroyers. It broke apart and scattered across space like a shattered toy. Commander Vexinar watched in horror as his fleet was torn apart. This was not possible. The Kreth were conquerors. They were the strongest species in this sector. They did not lose battles. Full power to forward shields. He screamed. "Concentrate fire on the big one." 5 remaining cruisers turned their weapons toward the Relentless. Dozens of plasma bolts flew across space, a storm of deadly energy aimed at the heart of the Terran fleet. Ben Ortiz did not even blink. "Chris, show them what we can do." Chris Dyer activated the main weapon systems. The Relentless carried kinetic bombardment cannons, massive railguns that could launch projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. They were designed to destroy planets. Using them on ships was almost unfair. The first shot hit a Kreth cruiser dead center. The entire ship crumpled like a crushed can, folding in on itself before exploding outward in a spray of debris. The second shot destroyed another cruiser. The third left a hole through the middle of a ship so large that you could see the stars on the other side. 14 minutes. That was how long the battle lasted. 14 minutes to destroy 9 heavy cruisers and break the power of the Kreth fleet in this sector. When the firing stopped, only 1 Kreth ship remained. Vexinar's flagship drifted in space, its weapons destroyed, its engines dead, its shields gone. Smoke poured from a dozen holes in its hull. Ben opened the communication channel one more time. "Commander Vexenar, your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is disabled. You will prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the immediate destruction of your vessel." He paused. "You were warned. You chose not to listen. Now you will face the consequences." He cut the channel and turned to Nicole Grant. "Take your Marines. Secure that ship. Bring me the commander alive." Nicole smiled her cold smile. "With pleasure." She left the bridge to gather her soldiers. In the fighter bays, Marines checked their weapons and prepared for close combat. They were about to show the Kreth what happened when you faced humans in a fight. And down on the planet below, the Volrani colonists looked up at the sky and saw the flashes of light from the distant battle. They did not know what was happening, but some of them felt something they had not felt in days. Hope that the Deathworlders had come. And they were winning. The drop pods fell from the relentless like rain made of metal and fire. Inside each pod, 5 Marines sat in their harnesses, weapons ready, hearts beating steady. They had done this 100 times in training. Now it was real. Marine Commander Nicole Grant was in the lead pod. She watched the numbers on her display count down as they fell toward the surface of Kepler 442b. The planet's atmosphere screamed past the outer shell. Heat shields glowed red with friction. Inside, the temperature stayed cool. 30 seconds to impact, she said over the team channel. Remember your training. Fast and hard. No mercy for those who showed none. The pods hit the ground with bone-jarring force. The impact systems absorbed most of the shock, but every Marine felt it in their teeth. Hatches blew open, and soldiers poured out into the alien air. Nicole was the first one out of her pod. She landed in the middle of the mining complex, in a courtyard that had once been a peaceful gathering place for Volrai families. Now it was filled with wreckage and bodies, and Kreth soldiers who were just starting to realize what was happening. A Kreth warrior turned toward her, raising its weapon. It was massive, almost 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and armor-plated skin that looked like it could stop bullets. Its eyes were small and cruel. Nicole shot it in the face. The Kreth had never faced human weapons before. Their armor was designed to stop the plasma weapons used by most species in the galaxy. But humans used kinetic weapons, guns that fired metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The bullet punched through the Kreth's skull and out the back of its head. The creature was dead before it hit the ground. More Marines landed around her. Within seconds, 1,200 soldiers were on the surface and moving. Sergeant Jake Sullivan led a squad toward the eastern barrier. He was a big man with a thick beard and hands that could bend steel bars. The Kreth had set up a defensive position there, with heavy weapons pointed at the refugee camp where the Volrani survivors were being held. Jake and his squad hit them from the side. The first Kreth soldier saw Jake coming and swung its blade, a massive piece of sharpened metal that could cut a Volrani in half. Jake ducked under the swing and grabbed the creature's arm. The Kreth was strong, stronger than any human by pure muscle power. But Jake knew something that the Kreth did not understand. Humans were not just strong. They were fast. They were smart. And they never, ever gave up. Jake twisted the arm in a direction it was not meant to go. The joint snapped with a sound like breaking wood. The Kreth screamed in pain and tried to pull away. Jake did not let go. He pulled the creature forward, off balance, and drove his combat knife into its throat. The Kreth died gurgling. Around him, his squad was doing the same. Private Marcus Chun fired his rifle in controlled bursts, each shot finding a target. Corporal Larver Price cleared a corridor with her shotgun, the heavy slugs tearing through Kreth armor like it was made of paper. Private Sam Wright used a grenade to destroy a weapon emplacement. then charged through the smoke before the debris finished falling. The Kreth could not understand what was happening. They had fought many species. They had always won. These new creatures moved too fast, hit too hard, and refused to die even when they were wounded. On the other side of the complex, another squad was experiencing something similar. Private Tyler Knox took a plasma burn to his shoulder. The pain was incredible, like someone had pressed a hot iron against his skin. Most species would have fallen. Most species would have screamed and waited for death. Tyler did not scream. His body flooded with adrenaline, the chemical that humans produced when they were hurt or scared or angry. His heart beat faster. His muscles tensed. His mind became sharp and clear. He raised his weapon with his good arm and kept firing. The Kreth, who had shot him, stared in disbelief. It had seen that wound kill enemies before. This creature should be dying. Tyler shot it 3 times in the chest and moved on to the next target. Nicole fought her way toward the main prison building. Intelligence said that Ambassador Tholix was being held there, along with dozens of other important Velrani. She needed to get them out before the Kreth decided to use them as hostages or shields. 2 Kreth guards stood at the entrance. They saw her coming and raised their weapons. Nicole was faster. She put a bullet in the first guard's eye and kicked the second one in the knee. The joint bent backward with a crack, and the Kreth fell screaming. Nicole finished it with a shot to the head and stepped over the bodies. Inside the prison, she found cells filled with Velrani. They were thin and weak, their feathers dirty, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had seen. But when they saw Nicole and her Marines, something changed in their faces. "You came," one of them whispered. "We came," Nicole confirmed. "Stay calm. We are going to get you out of here." She found Ambassador Tholix in the last cell. He was older than the others, with gray feathers and tired eyes. But when he saw Nicole, he managed to stand. "The message reached you," he said. "It was not a question. It reached us. And here we are." Jake Sullivan appeared at her side. "Commander, the complex is secured. Kreth resistance is broken. We have prisoners." Nicole nodded. She offered her hand to Tholix, helping him out of the cell. "Can you walk?" "I can now." Outside, the battle was ending. Kreth soldiers who tried to fight were killed. Those who surrendered were taken prisoner. The Marines moved with efficient brutality, clearing every building, securing every corner, making sure that no threat remained. The Velrani survivors gathered in the central courtyard, surrounded by human soldiers. They looked at these strange creatures from the death world with a mixture of fear and gratitude. The humans were terrifying. They had killed the Kreth with a speed and violence that seemed impossible. But they were also gentle with the survivors. They shared water and food. They treated wounds. They spoke softly and moved carefully, as if they understood how fragile the Velrani were. Nicole stood with Tholix and watched the scene. "Your species," Tholix said quietly. "The Concord warned us about you. They said you were monsters, killers. They said asking for your help would bring destruction." Nicole looked at him. Her face was still marked with the blood of the enemies she had killed. Her armor was dented and scratched from the battle. But her eyes were calm. "We are killers," she admitted. "When we need to be. Our planet made us that way. It tried to kill us for millions of years, and we survived by being stronger and faster and more brutal than anything else on our world." She paused. "But we are not monsters. Monsters kill for pleasure. Monsters hurt the innocent. We kill to protect. There is a difference." Tholix looked at the Marines who were now carrying injured Velrani to medical stations. He saw Tyler Knox, his shoulder wrapped in bandages, helping an elderly Velrani walk. "Yes," he said softly. "I am beginning to understand the difference." Above them, the last Kreth cruiser hung in orbit, captured and silent. And on that ship, Commander Vexinar waited for his fate. He was about to learn what happened when you angered the Deathworlders. Commander Vexinar had never known fear before. He had conquered worlds. He had crushed armies. He had watched entire species bow before him and beg for mercy that he never gave. Fear was something that happened to other creatures. Weaker creatures, prey creatures. But now, standing in chains on the bridge of the relentless, surrounded by humans who looked at him like he was an insect, Vexinar finally understood what fear felt like. Captain Ben Ortiz sat in his command chair, watching the Kreth commander with calm, patient eyes. The battle was over. The colony was secured. The survivors were being treated. All that remained was to deal with the creature who had caused so much pain. "Do you understand why you are here?" Ben asked. Vexinar tried to stand tall. He tried to look defiant, but his legs were shaking and his 4 eyes kept moving from human to human, watching for any threat. "You have won a battle," he said. "Nothing more. The Dominion will send more ships. They will destroy you. They will burn your worlds and enslave your people." Ben did not react to the threat. He simply continued to watch the Kreth commander with that same steady gaze. "The Dominion does not know what you know," he said. "They have never seen what you have seen. They have never fought humans. But you have. So let me ask you a question, Commander. Do you really believe, in your heart, that the Dominion can defeat us?" Vexinar opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. He thought about the battle. He thought about how fast it had happened. He thought about his 9 cruisers, the pride of his fleet, reduced to burning wreckage in 14 minutes. He thought about the human Marines who had stormed his ship, moving like predators, killing his warriors like they were nothing. He could not lie to himself. The truth was too obvious. "No," he whispered. Ben nodded. "I did not think so." He stood up and walked toward Vexinar until they were face to face. The Kreth was taller, but somehow the human seemed larger. "Here is what you are going to do," Ben said. "You are going to release every species that the Dominion has enslaved in this sector. Every colony you have conquered will be freed. Every slave will be returned to their homeworld. And you are going to send a message to the Dominion, explaining exactly what happens when you threaten those under Earth's protection. The Dominion will never agree to this." Vexinar said. "They will not have a choice. We are going to show them the recordings of this battle. We are going to let them see what happened to their fleet. And then we are going to give them a simple choice. They can accept peace or they can accept war." Ben paused, and for the first time, there was something in his eyes that made Vexinar's blood run cold. "I hope they choose war. I really do." Vexinar stared at the human. He saw no bluff, no pretense, no fear. He saw a creature that had evolved on a world of death and had learned to love the fight. "What are you?" he asked. Ben smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We are humans. We come from a planet called Earth. For 4 billion years, our world tried to kill us. Everything on our planet, from the smallest virus to the largest predator, was designed to end our existence. The heat tried to burn us. The cold tried to freeze us. The storms tried to drown us. The ground tried to swallow us. And we survived all of it." He leaned closer to Vexinar. "We did not just survive. We conquered. We became the apex predators of a death world. We learned that the only way to live was to be stronger, faster, and more dangerous than everything else. And now we have come to the stars. We did not want this fight. We were happy to stay in our own corner of the galaxy. But you forced our hand. You attacked innocent people and made them call for help. You made this our problem." Ben stepped back. "So here is my warning to you, Commander, and to the Dominion, and to everyone in this galaxy who thinks they can prey on the weak. We protect our own. And anyone who asks for our help becomes our own. If you come for them, you come for us. And if you come for us—" He let the silence hang in the air. Vexinar understood. The message was clear. The threat was real. "I will deliver your message," he said quietly. "Good. Then we are done here." The guards took Vexinar away. Ben returned to his command chair and let out a slow breath. The battle was won, but the war, if there was going to be one, was just beginning. Down on the planet's surface, things were finally calm. The Volrani survivors had been moved to safe areas. Medical teams were treating the wounded. Engineers were already starting repairs on the damaged buildings. Ambassador Tholux stood on a hill overlooking the colony, watching the Terran ships in orbit. Katie Morgan stood beside him. She had come down from the fleet to help coordinate the relief efforts. "The Galactic Concord will not be happy about this," Tholux said. "They have rules about contact with humans. They have tried to keep your species isolated for decades." Katie shrugged. "The Concord was not here when the Kreth attacked. They did not come to save your people." "We did. Yes, you did." Tholux turned to look at her. "Why? You do not know us. We have never helped you. Most of our species have spent years avoiding humans because we were afraid of you." Katie thought about the question for a moment. It was a good question. Why did humans help strangers who had never done anything for them? "Because you asked," she said finally. "That is all it takes. When someone is in trouble and they ask for help, we help. It is who we are. Our history is full of terrible things, wars and cruelty and suffering. But it is also full of moments when humans came together to protect the innocent and fight the wicked. That is the part of ourselves we try to honor." Tholux was silent for a long time. Then he looked back at the colony, at the Volrani, who were slowly beginning to rebuild their lives. "The Concord was wrong about you," he said. "They said you were dangerous. They said you were violent. They said you were a threat to the galaxy." He paused. "They were right about all of those things. But they missed the most important thing." "What is that?" "You are also kind. You are also brave. You protect those who cannot protect themselves." Tholux smiled, a rare expression for his species. "The Concord feared you because they only saw your claws. They did not see your heart." Katie smiled back. "Most species do not get the chance to see our heart. They only see our claws because those are what we show to our enemies. And what do you show to your friends?" Katie looked up at the stars, where the Relentless and her fleet were preparing to leave. Everything else. The next day, the Terran fleet departed. They left behind medical supplies, engineers to help with rebuilding, and a communication beacon that would let the Volrani contact Earth if they ever needed help again. Commander Vexinar was taken to a neutral station, where he would deliver his message to the Dominion and face whatever consequences followed. Ambassador Tholux watched the ships rise into the sky until they disappeared into the brightness of the sun. He would never forget this day. He would never forget the humans who had come to save his people. The Concord had warned everyone about the Deathworlders. They had said that calling for human help came with a price. And they were right. The price was paid in Kreth blood. And as the Relentless jumped into slipspace, heading back toward Earth, Captain Ben Ortiz allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. They had done good work today. They had saved innocent lives. They had punished the guilty. And they had reminded the galaxy why the Deathworlders were feared. Not because they were cruel. Not because they were evil. But because when someone threatened the innocent, humans showed no mercy. None at all.